This video will show you how to export data from a Trackster report into Microsoft Excel version 2007. Here we have a Trackster 3 report already opened, and you can see we have ORP, pH, and system conductivity being displayed. So the idea here is that we want to take this data and export it to Excel. So you can right click onto the report and select Export Dialog. Then select Text/Data Only. Then choose the file destination and click Browse. Now choose any name that you wish. I will choose tracksterdata.txt. And now click the Export button. We will keep the default options here on this window, so click the Export button again. Now at this point, the desktop should have our Trackster data file, and there it is. We will open it up, and again, this is just a text file, so the data looks like this. This is how Trackster exported the data in this by row format. So we want to import this data into Microsoft Excel. So we will open up Microsoft Excel and go to the Excel button and click Open. Now we navigate to the desktop, and we have to change the file types to all files and select tracksterdata.txt. Now the text import wizard appears, and we want to do a delimited type of data. So with the delimited option selected, click Next. We will select the delimiters as tab, and also in order to get this input terminal ID, let's select the right square bracket, or enter in the right square bracket, and so now you can see the terminal IDs is now going to be in their own column. Okay, so you can click Finish at this point. And we can't see all of the data, so I'm going to click and drag on the columns and then go over to Format and Auto Fit Column Width. Okay, so now you can see that the data has been imported. Column A has the terminal IDs. Column B is the parameter name. In this case, you see the system name dot controller name dot parameter name. That's just the way that Trackster exports data. This column C, those are indexes to the data points. You can ignore that. So the interesting columns are column B, D, and E. And looking at the data in this format is not exactly the easiest way to look at your data. What we want to do is transform this format into what is called a pivot table. So to do that, we click in any cell and go to Insert Pivot Table. We will select or keep the default option selected here, and now we want to tell Excel what data will go where in the pivot table. So in this far right side of the screen here, you have the pivot table field list. These fields, each field represents a certain column that we had over here. Going back to our original imported data, remember column A was the terminal ID, column B was the parameter, and so forth. So what we want to do over here is we want to add the date to the row label box down here. So I just clicked and dragged the date column, and now I'm going to click and drag the value column to the values, and lastly I will click and drag the parameter name column or column B to the column labels. And now you can see that this pivot table is organized such that each row represents a certain date and time. So as you can see here in our example, the first row is all of the data points for all of the parameters that occurred on February 11th, 2009 at 7 in the morning. And you can see here, column B is our ORP parameter, and there was no data point for this point in time. Column C is our pH parameter, and you can see that the value was 8.808 on this date and time. Column D is our system conductivity parameter, and you can see the first data point that occurred at 7 in the morning on February 11th is 1347. This column E is an extra column that's added by Excel because of how it works with pivot tables. You can ignore this column, so you can easily view the data for these three parameters now organized by date and time. Excel makes it very easy for you to create a report or a chart on this data by just going to Insert up in the ribbon here and then go select Line Chart or Line. Excel now creates this report or this chart based on this data. So that's how you can export data from a Trackster 3 report into Excel and then transform that original imported data into a pivot table format.